Hello and welcome. My name is Ashley. Today's book reviews are going to be on Duke and Renny, the 5th and 6th book of the Henchmen MC series by Jessica Geadziala. If you have not started the series at the beginning, you're going to be looking for Rain and Cash. So go ahead and start there, just simply because it's important the series is read in order. This is not one of those series that you could just pick up and start anywhere. So definitely start with Rain. I have to ask before I get started, and mainly just because it's a pet peeve of mine, if everyone has noticed that occasionally there are words that are not spelled wrong, but are mistakes. So for instance, if someone says it's paper thin, but instead of saying thin, it says it's paper them. And clearly that's not what it was intended. Or it will say something like there are two of them. And instead of saying two, T-W-O, it'll say two like T-O-O. I don't know. Maybe it's just something I'm making too big of a deal out of, but I've noticed it. And it's one of those things that if the editor had read the book and read through what the words were intended to be, I think it's kind of obvious. It doesn't happen a lot, like 1 or 2 times in a book, but it's still, when it happens, it kind of trips me up and I spend 5 minutes seeing if it's me or if it's the words. Anyways, that's my little rant just for a quick second, and I have to say, the books are still really good. I'm enjoying them. It's just, I noticed that, and so I had to say something. Okay, so now that I got that out of my system, let's get back to the books. Duke, as I mentioned in my last book review, after this book is going to completely change the face of the Henchmen, and quite frankly, I didn't expect it, mainly because I thought I understood how Jessica wrote after reading 4 of her books, but she completely surprised me. And not only with the storyline, which with the Henchmen, it's completely surprised, and then the way that she wrote Duke's past, I've never read anything like that before, and I do want to talk a little about that. But before that, she also changes the style of writing in this book, which, again, just, I love unexpected, and this was unexpected. For all of the books leading up to this point, there are 2 points of view, the male and female main roles. And that worked perfectly for those books. And in this book, that liberty is including more than just the 2 main points of view. And it works wonderfully. In this book, it's going to be Janie and Wolf that are also included beyond Duke and Penny. And I love Wolf and Janie more in this book than I love them in their book. For me, this was a turning point. After Duke, every single book that's written, every character is so beyond thought out. The storylines, how you keep this motorcycle club working, change the stories enough where they don't feel like they're getting mundane. Honestly, from Duke on, this series picks it up like 10 notches. And I have to say, I really loved the beginning of this series. So it's not that I didn't like those books. It just felt like Jessica got in her groove around now. Or maybe it's that it flipped a switch in me, and these are the ones that I connect to most, but I really enjoyed that. As I mentioned, Duke's past, I want to talk about for just a quick second. Jessica chose that he was raised in a white supremacist cult, and so his parents actually made the choice for him and his siblings to grow up in a cult that believed in white supremacy, and he made that choice when he didn't want to be part of it anymore. And I was beyond proud that Jessica made it where Duke made that choice for himself. Nothing, it was just the way he felt. His morals and values led him away from that group. It makes a difference. In my opinion, it makes a difference. Moving on to Renny. Renny's story is, again, one that I had never read before. And basically, Renny plays the role of a profiler for the MC. And that is because after Duke, Rain thought it was a good idea to have someone around that could read other people and maybe be able to tell if they were going to be trouble ahead of time and if they were lying. Renny is going to work very closely with a girl named Mina, and this actually starts in Duke, but Mina's the profiler for Hellstorm, and that's her occupation. She is sent out by Hellstorm to work with clients who for any reason need a profiler, and in this case is working with the henchmen because Rain's paranoid and now he has to have new prospects, so he wants them vetted. Not only by Renny, but also by a profiler from Hellstorm, and that way he can feel confident that he's not letting in anybody who could be dangerous, which I completely get. But what's interesting is to see the way that Mina and Renny interact, because having 2 profilers, I just thought was a really clever way to set it up. But more importantly, the way that they think about their job and what they do so differently, I really liked. Mina uses her profiling skills to also profile herself. So why does she think the way she thinks, act the way she acts? Why did she do that thing? And at one point, she's going to find out something about herself that she didn't know. Somebody's going to point it out to her, and it really takes her by surprise because she does this professionally. She should have noticed it. And I found it endearing that she didn't just profile other people, but she turned it in on herself. And then Renny is the complete opposite. He understands that he does certain things that tick people off, push certain buttons, but he thinks of it as kind of the way he is to always be that way. So having Mina challenge him and ask him if he's ever tried not to be a giant jerk or to try not to do this certain behavior, that certain behavior, I think works really well. And on top of that, having Renny have these really odd personality traits and Mina be almost in ways professionally trained to deal with those personality traits was a wonderful, wonderful way to lead that story. I liked it a lot. Clearly, I liked it a lot. So that's these two books. I don't want to talk too much about the actual storylines because, as I said, it's going to ruin it. But there was one thing I didn't mention that I do want to talk about, and that is Penny, the female lead in Duke's book. And that is because she is completely normal. Not normal like Summer was normal. Normal like her entire life is boring, and she knows that. She always chooses the calm, peaceful thing, and she doesn't ever do anything that's outside the box. She's this amazing woman who loves her grandmother dearly, and so to have her drawn into this motorcycle club and their issues was, I thought, a perfect choice. I really like this series, guys. If you have any questions or comments, as always, you can leave those down below. If you like this book review, you can like it. Next week's book reviews will be on Lazarus and Pagan. If you want to watch those reviews or get my reviews every week, subscribe. I will see you again soon. Thank you guys for joining me.